Hello and welcome. It is time once again to try to fix something, and today on the workbench a PS5 digital. This is an 1115 model, disc free obviously. This was sent in by a viewer of the channel, and I thought I would try to take a look at it and see if I could help him out, which is not something I do very often because I just don't have the time. But we are going to take a look at this one and just see what its issue is. I think it's just supposed to be a totally dead one. Let's see. It's not totally dead. It beeps. Oh. I didn't know it even beeped. Beeps, but no lights, nothing. Okay. So probably not a dead power supply. There's a myriad of other options it could be. Okay, then we get another beep after a few seconds. Okay. Could still be a lot of things, but that does sound like a motherboard problem and not a power supply issue. Yep. All right, so we're going to dig into the motherboard on this one. Let me get the covers off and see what we find. Well, somebody has been into this thing since the antennas are still disconnected there. I don't see any screws missing at the moment. Okay. Let's get on into it. Well, I have made it down to the motherboard. I don't see any signs yet of previous work. Not on this side of the board anyway. I'm going to take it on out and we'll get it inside of the workbench and see what we can find. Alright, well here we are inside. We're going to take a look at this board, which still does not look like it's ever been worked on, which is usually a good thing. Where to start? Maybe take a quick look around the HDMI encoder I see in diode mode. I'm going to look at some of these small bypass caps that I know are on power rails going into this thing. That looks fine. Get a contact on this. These are rather tiny capacitors. I keep slipping. Off the top of my head, I would say that was absolutely fine. I'm just tapping some of these little bypass capacitors on the rails going into the encoder IC. I'm going to take a look at the breakout board just to see what that looks like. Starting with pin 1, that's good. 2 is ground. 3, 4, 5 is ground. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 has no connection. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Right now I'd have to say the HDMI encoder I see looks pretty healthy. So let's just continue looking around at some power rails maybe, shall we? I don't think we have a problem with our 5 volts because it tries to do something. If you didn't have 5 volts, I don't think it would try to do anything. Here's our 5 volts. No shorts there. Over in this area, there's another set of DC-DC converters. There's a chip right here that makes several voltages. I need to check that. Make sure my continuity mode is working. Let's see. Check some of these capacitors around here. So far, so good. Only have a connection to ground on one side of them. That looks good. That looks good. Let's see. That's ground there. Other power rails. Okay, that's ground. That's not the issue. So it looks pretty good so far. About this side. Just checking several capacitors on these. These are the this is the power generation for the SSD. Generated several voltages for that. And then it all looks good. Don't see a problem there. Several fuses to check also. Let me check this F7002 while I'm here. It's good. Any other fuses on this side of the board? Let's go back to the other side and check some fuses. That's good. That's F7003, F7502. Good. F3502. Good. There's a F7501. Can't see exactly where it is. About F3501. Good, good. Nothing obvious. $12 ohms, 0.65. Okay. Looking into the APU. That all looks fine. I have not looked around the south bridge yet, the underside of it. Just looking for some obvious shorts, and I have not found any yet. Okay. Maybe we should just put some power into this thing and see what kind of current it draws. All right, I have connected my power supply right there. Let's see what kind of current we draw when I enable it. That looks a little low. 170 milliamps seems a little bit low. And it hangs there, it holds. And back down to 11. All right, well, the idle current looks about right, but everything else looks wrong. It's kind of strange. Well, it has been a few days since I've looked at this board. Been little busy with work. But I've gone over it extensively, and I cannot find any shorted components. So I'm afraid it's not going to be that simple as a shorted cap on this one. I don't know what it is. And I don't have a board to compare it to, a working EDM20. I have one ordered, should be here in a few days. But at the moment, I don't have one to make, good comparisons with. I've got a 10 and maybe a 30, but I just don't have the 20. I think what I'm going to do, though, is go ahead and change out the south bridge. I can't really, there's no shorts under it. It's not like it's totally dead, but of course, it's responsible for bringing up the system. So I think I'm going to go ahead. I have gone ahead and reballed one. Should be a good one there. I think I pulled off of another machine. So we're going to put this one on here and see if it makes any difference. Because I've got a board coming in, but I'm being impatient. I have a day off right now, so I want to go ahead and we'll try it. If it doesn't fix it, then I'll just reball this one and use it again. All right, our south bridge has been changed. We need to see if we've changed the behavior of this board in any way. Remember, it was hanging at, I think, 170 milliamps for several seconds. Yeah, I think my polarity is right. Board's still a little toasty, but I think we're okay. It's cooled off enough, I believe. Let's see what we do now. 174, 175. I'm going to say that's no change in behavior. Nope, no change whatsoever, I don't believe. Well, keep looking. All right, where are we now? We changed our south bridge. It made no difference whatsoever. And I still don't have a board to compare to, although it's going to be here later on today. Several hours from now when the mail runs. But of course, I'm feeling impatient. I just ended up repairing a PS5 with a similar issue to this one. I didn't do a video on that one, but it was a similar problem where the current draw during the initialization process would hang. That one hung at 270 milliamps. It was also an EDM30 board. But it would hang, and then, of course, when the current did go back down, it would beep, but would not turn on. And that ended up being a bad Wi-Fi Bluetooth module. So I'm wondering if this is a similar issue. I have not touched that yet. There's the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module. I do have one sitting here ready to go, reballed. So I think I'm going to go ahead and swap that out. Let's just see if that helps us any. If it doesn't, then I'll just reball that one and use it on another one. But I'm just wondering. Well, our Bluetooth Wi-Fi module has been changed, and I have reconnected the power supply. See if we've done any good, any change. I'm going to say no. That looks the exact same. Yep, that looks to be the exact same. She'll hold there like 10, 12 seconds, whatever it is, and then drop back down. So I'm going to say no, we have not changed this thing in any way. So we keep looking. Okay, where are we now with this PS5? Well, as you can see, I have two of them side by side. I did finally get my EDM 020 board in for comparison. This is supposed to be a working board. It's just banned from the PlayStation Network, which doesn't affect its operation here. So I've been making a lot of comparisons between the two, and quite honestly haven't found anything that just jumped out at me. So at this point, I did some tests. Like there is a difference in current draw. The working board draws a peak when it's initializing, you know, off my 12-volt supply, about 330 milliamps. This one only draws, I think it was 175. That's the peak it draws during that initialization phase. So obviously there's something wrong there. So I started doing some tests. I lifted this fuse F7502 right there, which feeds the DC-DC converter right on the other side of the board right there, that generates the voltages for the SSD. And then I stuck an ammeter in series with it between there and over here to check how much current this circuit is drawing on this working board. And that was 370 milliamps. And on the non-working board, the SSD power supply circuit is drawing 254 milliamps. So yeah, there's a difference there. So my next stop, I think, is going to be to change out this SSD controller right here. So yeah, there's some guessing involved with this because I'm still learning on these, but there are only so many things that are powered on when you first apply power to this board. Like as far as I know, the CPU and the RAM aren't really involved. They don't get any supply voltages, but the SSD controller does, and the Wi-Fi module does, over here on the side of the board. So, and of course the South Bridge would. I have changed the South Bridge on this board. I have changed the Wi-Fi module, so this is the next thing. I have one here that I pulled off another board, replaced it. It did not affect the way the other one performed. So I've got this reballed, and I'm going to try to install it right here and see if that makes any difference at all. All right, well, our SSD controller has been changed out, and I've let this board cool down quite a bit because I did have it quite toasty. But I like to, that lets me, you know, be a little more gentle. I was using, I think, 400 degrees to remove the chip. Of course, with the added heat of the heater, you know, the preheater. And I used 360 to put it down because then it was you know, unleaded solder balls before, leaded solder balls when I put it down. So trying to be a little more gentle with it. It's time to see if we've done any good whatsoever. Let's watch this current draw over here. There it goes. It went to 300 milliamps and then come back down. Yes, that looks like a totally normal initialization. I think this thing may be working. Finally. It's a long road getting there. All right, let's get this thing maybe out there on the chassis and see if it works. Well, here we are back out in the garage for the moment of truth. I've got it put together just enough to test. I think, well, I did forget the CPU clamp. Okay, give me a moment. Let me put the CPU clamp on. Now maybe we're ready. Got the APU clamp on there. Fans attached. Power is in. HDMI is in. Monitor is on. Fan is spinning. Blue light is flashing. Monitor is locking to something. Yes. That's the first time I've seen that logo on this thing. Well, I think I'm going to end this one here because this video has gotten to be really, really long. So, Ghost Rider, as your email says, your PS5 will be back on its way as soon as I get it all cleaned up and put back together. But I hope all of you out there enjoyed this one, thought it was somewhat interesting or educational or ridiculous or whatever. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the very next repair. So long for now.